It was a Tuesday morning when I found myself stepping into that cramped little courtroom in Redstone County. I had one solitary sheet of paper clutched in my hand, and across from me sat a woman named Gloria Dawes, a slick corporate type with a pair of heavy-duty rolling bags filled with papers and folders, an air of self-satisfaction plastered across her face. She looked at me as if she already knew she'd won, her lips pressed in that condescending smile that suggested she had the upper hand. Gloria was the chairwoman of the Everwood Neighborhood Association, a position she wore like a crown, but also as a weapon she used against anyone who didn't conform. Her perfectly manicured nails, gray business suit, and a face that seemed permanently locked in a scowl. She looked like someone who enjoyed turning the screws on people just to feel in control. She had dragged me to court, thinking she could force me to repaint my house, remove my trees, and cough up a ridiculous amount in fines for violating rules I had never agreed to. The truly unnerving part? She genuinely believed she had the power to do so. It wasn't just the fact that she was trying, it was the certainty with which she believed she could win. But before I dive into that, let me rewind and explain how this all started, because it all began with a driveway and a splash of paint. I had just finished building my dream cabin, a project that had taken me years to save for. It sat on a peaceful plot of land I had purchased on the edge of Everwood, a snooty suburban development with beige houses, manicured lawns, and more luxury cars than I could count. My cabin, though, was just outside the boundaries of their precious community, nestled on 5 acres of forested land. Technically, I wasn't part of Everwood, but I could see the streetlights from my back porch. I wasn't trying to stir up trouble. I just wanted a bit of peace, some space to enjoy nature without constant noise. I painted my cabin a deep green, designed a gravel path with my own hands, and built a wraparound porch to sit on while I enjoyed my coffee in solitude. But apparently, tranquility wasn't something that everyone appreciated. One morning, I was sipping my coffee when I saw Gloria marching up my driveway like she owned the place. Clipboard in hand, her sunglasses perched high on her nose, she looked like she was inspecting a battlefield. She didn't even knock, just stood there, eyes scanning my property as if my trees were a personal affront to her. "You must be the new owner," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'm Gloria Dawes, head of the Everwood Neighborhood Association." "Nice to meet you," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. But she didn't smile. Instead, she flipped a page on her clipboard and launched into a long tirade about how my cabin was an eyesore, my gravel driveway was out of compliance, and that my choice of forest green paint was incompatible with the aesthetic harmony of the neighborhood. I blinked, unsure how to respond. "Ma'am, I don't live in your community. I'm not part of your HOA." She looked at me as though I had just declared myself above the law. "That's up for debate," she said with an icy smile. "There's an old agreement from 1997 that outlines potential expansion for our neighborhood. Your property falls right into that zone." "Well," I said, "I bought this land from the county in 2010. No one ever told me I'd be subject to your rules." Gloria paused for a moment, then gave me a cold smile. "I'll be looking into that," she said, before walking away. And look into it, she did. In the weeks that followed, I received an avalanche of letters, all from Gloria and her HOA. They were full of complaints, no laundry allowed outside, no unapproved landscaping, no natural finishes allowed on buildings. One letter even demanded I tear out my fire pit because it disrupted the aesthetic continuity of the tree line. I didn't respond. I figured if I ignored it, they'd eventually get the message. But Gloria wasn't the type to back down easily. She ramped things up. She contacted the HOA board, which consisted of people I'd never met, and convinced them I was somehow ruining property values with my so-called rustic cabin. She went as far as to create a presentation, complete with aerial photos of my property marked with red pen, and she even made a slideshow about me, which she showed in an HOA meeting. The whispers around town said she'd even added dramatic music, making me out to be the villain in some twisted HOA horror story. Then, she hired a surveyor to check every inch of my property line, trying to find some technicality. She dug up that old 1997 plan and clung to it like a lifeline, filing a lawsuit against me. The day I received the papers was one I won't forget. I was in the middle of staining my porch when a process server showed up, looking like he wished he wasn't delivering this. "Don't shoot the messenger," he muttered as he handed me an envelope. Inside were 30 pages of legal jargon, claiming I violated over a dozen HOA rules. They demanded I repaint my cabin in either Everwood beige or driftwood taupe, cut down all trees taller than 12 feet within 30 feet of my house, replace my gravel driveway with HOA-approved stonework, and pay over $32,000 in back dues for 5 years. But I wasn't the type to panic. I wasn't about to let someone push me around with their sense of entitlement. So, I made one phone call to the county clerk's office and asked for a very specific document. It took them a couple of days to track it down, but when they did, it was a game changer. I slept easy that night, knowing I had the proof I needed. Fast forward to the courtroom. Gloria had arrived early, dragging 2 heavy suitcases full of binders, papers, and photos, like she was preparing for a Supreme Court case. I had one single page of paper in a manila folder. The judge walked in, a woman named Sylvia Turner, known for her no-nonsense attitude. She called the case and Gloria was on her feet in an instant, practically reciting bylaws and regulations, going on about how my cabin was a fire hazard, my property was a blight, and how I was ruining the harmony of the entire community. She went on for almost 5 minutes, and by the time she finished, she was beaming like she had just delivered a masterpiece. When it was my turn, I stood up and handed the judge my single sheet of paper. Judge Turner read it carefully, then looked up. It was a certified county document from 2010, proving that my property had been separated from the original Everwood tract before the HOA was even established. The document clearly stated that my land was exempt from any HOA rules or covenants. The judge's expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed as she turned to Gloria. "So, Miss Dawes, your HOA did not exist when this land was sold, and you have no legal authority here, correct?" Gloria opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The judge continued, "This court finds your claim not only groundless, but bordering on harassment. You have attempted to impose rules on a property that has no legal obligation to follow them. This misuse of the judicial system is unacceptable." And just like that, the case was dismissed. Gloria couldn't file it again, and the HOA was ordered to pay my legal fees, which amounted to just under $5,000. The judge also issued a restraining order, barring Gloria and any HOA members from contacting or interfering with me or my property ever again. But the real kicker came when Judge Turner turned to Gloria one last time and said, "Perhaps the Everwood community could benefit from leadership that understands the limits of its power." Gloria stood there, stunned, her face a mixture of disbelief and rage. She tried to gather her things, but it was clear she had lost. Publicly, legally, permanently. News of the courtroom defeat spread quickly through Everwood, and that night, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. By morning, Gloria had been voted out. Her allies turned on her, realizing they didn't like being dragged into a lawsuit over her control issues. To top it off, because the HOA had to cover my legal costs, every resident got hit with a surprise $40 fee. Some of my neighbors stopped by to apologize and bring beer, admitting they hadn't liked Gloria either. They had just been too intimidated to speak up. As for Gloria, her real estate career was in tatters. Her broker found out what she'd been up to, and by noon on Monday, she was suspended. The state ethics board started an investigation soon after. The last time I saw her, she was sitting alone in the HOA meeting room, surrounded by boxes of papers that no longer mattered. She looked defeated, her head down, shoulders slumped. Honestly, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Now, I'm not against HOAs entirely. I get it. Some rules are necessary for maintaining the community. But there's a difference between keeping things tidy and trying to control every little detail of someone's life. What do you think? Have you ever had a run-in with an HOA that crossed the line? Share your stories below. I'm all ears.